and this is such an important show. This is the first time he's brought his entire family up to Seattle. This is a celebration, and you deserved it, by the way. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the true future of great art. It's social, it's important, it's valid railroad. Make some noise for Cre8! Come on, Seattle! Make me feel good! Oh, one more time! Make some noise for Cre8! So you'll turn that on. Yeah, I'm gonna start with this. Dude, look at the sweater.
I know, so many people mentioned my sweater.
Can I start off with myself?
I'm kind of cool too, damn the sweater.
Can I do a selfish story?
Yes.
I gotta be honest. So obviously I have a lot of like bad clothing, and I love this stuff. And one of the advantages over being what my position is that when I've had celebrations in my life, it's a tradition that artists gift me paintings. And it's kind of an art dealer relationship we've had. So I got a ridiculous, my wife and I, a ridiculous collection of paintings. We had our daughters. Peter Max came to my house and painted portraits of both my daughters. I've had some really interesting stuff. And I'm a big collector of Cre8 already. I moved into an apartment. I told the whole crowd last night of what I was going through. I chose one artist to put all the apartment in my new apartment. And I decorated all Cre8, 100% Cre8. But I gotta tell you, he shows up in Happy Bay about 5 months ago, and he says, "Hey, can I see you tonight? I got something for you." I'm like, "Oh, you didn't have to do that." But I'm just glad I did. And I thought, "Oh, I bet he did a painting for me or something." You know? And it's great. It's always an appreciated thing. And he shows up and he looks at me and goes, "It's not a painting." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, whatever you did, you shouldn't have done it. But thanks, I'll meet you at midnight." So he walks to the ballroom and he walks in, he's got this like Saks Fifth Avenue bag. And I'm like, "What?" And he sits down and he said, "Man, I want to do something for you." Because I was there for the first show, and I think we're really good friends. And I've happily opened the door to this whole world. I'm trying to help him. He doesn't need my help anymore. And he pulls out, I don't have them on, I just wore them last weekend, but they're my go-to when I'm going on a date or something at home. He bought me my first pair of Louboutins. And he bought me men's Louboutins, real red soles. Maybe it's not like guys, so maybe don't. And I looked at my jaw drop, I'm like, "Bro, these are Louboutins." He's like, "Yeah, they're really funky, but they're understated and classy too." And man, I gotta tell you, you know I don't spend more than $35 for a pair of shoes. And so, you know, that's something I'll never forget. Let's talk about you before you go to your story. And I want to get as deep as we can, get the entire family here. You are a manifesto. So right now, you are a whirlwind of non-sleep, working 8 days a week. You carry yourself with an utmost presence that is amazing. You dress, you know, you're affiliating yourself with Gucci and obviously Louis Vuitton here as well. It's a manifesto. This is a concept that goes back to the European masters. He's influenced by Dalí. When you are a true artist, you live your art. You become part of your art. And you don't see that every day now. Like everything you do, man, when you walk out, tell us about who you are right now as you see yourself.
Well, you know, I'm not a drug dealer, but most people think I'm a damn drug dealer. They're like, "Man, you know, a lot of people have asked." It was funny. We were, while I was flying, I think we were in Rotan on a little Cessna, and this lady just kept looking at me, and she's like, "Sir, I just have to ask what you do for a living." And I said, "You know, I don't know what made me say it." I said, "I'm a drug dealer." She's like, "Oh my God." No. I'm kidding.
People think I'm a magician. I would love to be a drug dealer. I don't just look like one. That's what I'm shooting for. I just don't, no one ever believes me.
No, I didn't show her my artwork, and she's like, "No, but you're probably selling drugs too." But it's perception, you know. I've always been into fashion, and I've always been enamored by people in suits. So you'll see that context in the
You went to the Gucci show in Miami recently?
Oh, Louis Vuitton.
Louis Vuitton,
Actually,
Louis Vuitton
what's his name? I can't even think of his name right now. He just passed away.
Oh, the African American guy.
Yeah, he actually Off-White.
Off-White, excuse me.
Yeah, so he it was his last show because he died, and that was special. Man, I wish I could remember his name.
I like it because you're the kind of new union of space and bouge, and I mean those both in the good ways.
Oh no, I'm bougie.
And I love the way you carry it because because you are an artist now, you're a brand. You've been, let's be honest, you've lived your art all your life.
Correct.
There was the first show I did with there's some people here that were here 3 years ago for your first show.
Oh man, so you saw me cry.
Yeah, that was, look at right here. These guys, look at it, bought paintings. I mean,
That's awesome.
this is where it all started. That was the first show. But I gotta say it, it's like, you lived your art the whole way. And I remember at that show at one point I said, do you have any regrets? And he said, at that point 3 years ago, he didn't know what the fame, he didn't know how this was going to proceed. He says, well, it's really hard for me. I wish I had tattooed my neck. And I said, why? And he said, because I spend my days as a rock star in my world, and then I go across the street to get lunch, and I see women that grab their kids and walk away from me. And he's like, I'm straight edge. I don't do drugs. I don't do anything. I've got kids. I'm a family man, but I'm an artist. And it was unperceived. But I think now, as a culture, I hate to speak for all of us, but we're so turning that way now, where it's more respected. You were just early. You were ahead of everybody by 10 years in everything you've done. You were the breakdancing artist before breakdancing became cool. You were the graffiti artist before it became gentrification and the most important part of every major city. And then you were a tattoo artist before it became something that every millennial has to have by the age of 15. And now, all of a sudden you were on the wrong side of the tracks and police were chasing you, and now police are lining up to have your photo.
Yeah, it's crazy. When we were in Denver, a sheriff came up to me and says, I think I chased you one time.
I was at the show and we land in Denver. We're in the Uber ride to go to the hotel because we're in the same flight, and we drove by and said, wait, slow down this Uber. We slowed down this big bank building. He goes, oh my gosh, that entire wall, I tagged that one night. And they since painted it over. But you've lived throughout North America, and I love the fact that it wasn't an easy ride for you. Like, what got you into being an artist or a tagging artist, graffiti artist originally? What got you into, because you were never on the right side of the tracks, not because something you did wrong.
No, I mean, at that point, I was kind of a victim of my circumstances. It was what I thought. And it was kind of like, you're from this area, you have to kind of represent this area. And we got kind of bottlenecked into, if you don't join somebody, then we'll just mess with you every day. You might as well have some sort of family or brotherhood. So I kind of got into the gang culture, and it was tough because I went through high school. I didn't finish high school, and then I ended up getting kicked out of the high schools. And then because it was for fighting or selling drugs and stuff like that, I wasn't allowed to go to any schools. So there was one school that was really far from where we lived at, and they were the only ones that accepted me. But it was a school for bad kids. It was like an alternative school, and unfortunately, I got kicked out of that one too.
Options are limited at that point.
Yeah, but before I got kicked out, I was fighting a lot because I was, of course, from one gang that was in the complete opposite gang of where I had to school. So one day, I'm getting beat up by like 4 guys, and they're like, man, this graffiti artist saw me, and he says, he helps me, jumps in and says, hey man, I'm gonna help you. So we ended up getting into that fight, and then after that, he says, hey man, why don't you try your luck at graffiti? You don't fight as much. So I said, well, I'll give it a try. He says, I see you throwing up your set on the fences and on the walls of the school. Maybe you should try your stuff in graffiti. It has a little bit more of an impact. You're in the scene, but behind the scenes. So I did that, and it actually took like wildfire to me. We weren't fighting, we actually didn't fight at all. And we were kind of like fighting on the wall. It was really cool because we would put up something and someone would cross you out, and then that was where the war was. And it wasn't like, let's fight each other because we have to prove that we're a man. It was, my artwork's better than yours. And then the more that you could do that, and then you actually become this little face of something. And it was always metaphors. We always made something out of nothing. So, fast forwarding 15, 20 years, I'm a contemporary artist, but I've always kind of been a contemporary artist because I've always painted to the time. We always had all these crazy quotes after all. We'll do a whole full wall. It took us 2 weeks, and there, at the end of it, there was always a message. And in the beginning, as graffiti artists, we didn't really care what the consequence was. When you're 16, 17 years old, now I'm like 40, there's no running.
It was a social statement.
I might as well just arrest me now, because I'm not going to break a hip and we're not going to